Hey, what up, everybody? Today was a real fun day in professional wrestling. Well, actually, I guess last night was a real fun night in professional wrestling, and today was sort of like the aftershock of feeling everything. I can tell you that honestly, I went to bed really excited about waking up and going to the gym today. And I was really excited to listen to Wrestling Observer Radio, hearing what Dave Meltzer was going to say to break down the events happening at last night's TNA Impact live show and tapings as well, with Jeff Jarrett coming into TNA and becoming a part of the Slammiversary show, wrestling at Slammiversary in the King of the Mountain match. The match has been announced as of yesterday. I think only Jeff Jarrett was announced to be in there. Jeff Jarrett versus Matt Hardy, Eric Young, Drew Galloway, and Bobby Roode. A great collection of talent in there. Collection of TNA stars, and Jeff Jarrett being added into there is a real big part of the history. I will say that I'm glad that Jeff Jarrett is getting this shot inside of TNA, and even if it is just on the level, what they're saying, Jeff Jarrett coming back, wrestling one more show, I think that's really cool, because honestly, I think that TNA really gave the shaft to Jeff Jarrett, even before he quit and was not all the way out of Impact Wrestling. TNA ran two one-night only pay-per-view shows. One was the 10th anniversary special, and another one was the Tournament of Champions, with all of the greatest TNA champions that they had still under roster. Jeff Jarrett was not invited to either one of those shows to wrestle, even just to put somebody over or anything. I'm not looking for him to be the guy, put to the main event, but how do you have a 10th anniversary special and not have the guy that, put the first pen to paper to build the company that you guys are celebrating? And, when it comes to a collection of champions inside of tournament to see who the greatest champion is in TNA history, how do you not have the guy who won the title and held the title longer than anybody? I know that there's been different championships in there, and I know that Bobby Roode had the longest run of all time, but there's no doubt in my mind that Jeff Jarrett has to be the guy in TNA's existence to be holding their number one title longer than anybody else. And so that was sort of a negative thing for me, but now there's rumors and speculation running wild over thousands of things. If you've gone to Jeff Jarrett's YouTube page and seen his behind-the-scenes documentary that they let him film about, coming to the park, basically sitting in the car waiting for his time to go. Dave Meltzer talked about how basically nobody knew that this was going to happen except for the people that needed to know that was going to happen. They handed out the script for the Impact last night. Basically, it was a 2-hour show. There was no gaps in it. And then they had Jarrett do his part, and then they had to go edit it into the show, clipping the things that needed to be clipped before the show went live. But you can see live reactions from the wrestlers that were there. Austin Aries honestly came out from doing his segment on Impact, and as he walked through the curtain, Jeff Jarrett was standing there, and he honestly looked at him like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And then just breezed just right by him without even saying anything to him. So I don't know if there's bad blood in that camp, but it seemed very, very weird. But there's rumors out if this is Jeff Jarrett's last run in TNA. It seemed that Dave Meltzer was under the impression that this is not a one-time deal, that Jeff will be in the foreseeable long running of storylines with TNA, if that leads to him going into the TNA Hall of Fame at Bound for Glory. He is probably the one name that deserves to go in more than almost anybody else. Of course, at the first induction, they put Sting in, one of the biggest names to ever wrestle there, and then easily the biggest acquisition that TNA ever had was bringing in Kurt Angle. But last year they went with the Dudleys, and it's always sort of been on the back burner. Why are guys like AJ Styles, why are guys like Jeff Jarrett, the building parts of why people were choosing to watch those early TNA Impact shows, or not even Impact, TNA shows as a whole, why were they not involved? TNA has been a company that has seen ups and it's seen downs, and Jeff was there for a lot of it, and he bailed out, and now he's starting up his own company, and there's rumors that maybe Jeff will be acquiring TNA in the time slot that they have on Destination America, taking it off of the Carter's hands and putting it back under him, trying to get to where it's going. Maybe they're just going to be doing an invasion storyline of Global Force versus TNA Impact. I still have questions about Jeff Jarrett in this King of the Mountain match, because the way that they described it was that basically in the King of the Mountain match, you would be handed a championship, and in order to win the match, you would have to climb up to the top of a ladder and place the belt on a rung, and that was how the match would be ended, and you'd be crowned the new champion. Now, the King of the Mountain match has not added Kurt Angle. It doesn't seem that this would be an X Division match, even though it doesn't look like there's one on the card yet. It just would be weird to have, maybe Matt Hardy and Eric Young fit into there, but Drew Galloway and Bobby Roode. I know that the X Division means no limits. It just doesn't really fit with what they're going through. But if Global Force does come through, there's been stories coming out today. It was first announced that Brodus Clay, aka Tyrus, was pulled from wrestling on the Global Force show because Global Force Wrestling had asked him to wrestle the show, and they'd come to a term for him to be there. But then TNA pulled it, saying that Jeff Jarrett, and Global Force Wrestling was their competition, and it doesn't make sense for them to be wrestling on the competing shows. Now it seems that there is free reign for Global Force to book any TNA wrestlers, so it seems like there is a bit of a bridge that's been built between Dixie Carter and Jeff Jarrett, if they don't want to let the cat out of the bag that Jeff Jarrett's going to be reacquiring and coming back into ownership of TNA, or maybe that Jeff Jarrett is going to be acquiring it, but is keeping Dixie Carter around for some sort of a character role to be on the television. My questions about moving forward, because as of right now, I don't think you can have Jeff Jarrett win the King of the Mountain title because of how much they've been hyping up the Impact. I believe it's one of the first Impacts of July. Is going to be EC3 going up against Kurt Angle for the TNA Championship. So you can't have Jeff win the title. But if Jeff did win the title somehow or somewhere down the road, that's how you could bring in the Global Force backup is running the Invasion angle. Basically, Jeff's going to be taking the TNA title with him to his Global Force Wrestling. They have to find a way to get it back. But even if they do that, Jeff Jarrett is going to be starting out his new company or taking over this company with the same angle that we've been seeing in wrestling for since the Screwjob. I mean, you've had evil Vince, you've had evil Triple H, evil Stephanie running over in WWE. You've had Dixie Carter as the heel general manager, or the heel owner, I guess you would say, for TNA Impact. They have the guy on Lucha Underground who really is sort of a heel owner of the company, but when it comes down to it, he does a lot of things fair. He just likes to stack the deck against talent. But it just seems that so many people are doing this heel storyline. Why are you going to recreate it and restart it again? It's worked for years to keep things rolling down the tracks and make easy storylines because you've just been copying the things that have been doing so many times in the past. But if you think about it, the one thing that I was questioning about Jeff Jarrett starting up Global Force Wrestling was when he started TNA, he came up with the brilliant idea of the X Division by changing the cruiserweight or the lightweight division that was used for WCW or WWE by basically meaning X Division had no limits. How is he going to be able to create something new and something fresh again that brings in fans, because there is an alternative to what's going on in Ring of Honor, WWE, TNA, Lucha Underground, PWG? How is he going to be able to make his company different from the companies that are surrounding him? And that's going to be a hard thing to do. I mean, wrestling's been around forever, and I know WWE has pulled things out of their butt before, like the Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, by changing the designs of things that's going on around the ring. But how can really somebody come up with an idea of something in wrestling that's never been done before? So that's sort of the things that are going to be hard moving forward for Jeff Jarrett. But I really am looking forward to seeing what the future holds for TNA, Impact Wrestling, as well as Global Force and Jeff Jarrett. If it just ends up being a storyline that fans made up and it fades off into the past, it was a good little run right here. And if Jeff Jarrett's going into the Hall of Fame, he deserves it. I wish there would be someday he'd be able to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. that might be a long way down the road, seeing how Jeff Jarrett was, away from TNA for a while and never really found any way to sort of bridge that gap together. I have seen WWE tweet out Jeff Jarrett pictures of him, being one of the best Intercontinental Champions of all time. But I don't know if there is just a hard line between, Jeff Jarrett and Vince because of the whole him versus China and Jeff holding him up for money. It seems that Jeff Jarrett and Jim Ross were able to bury the hatchet on the Jim Ross show, and Jim Ross was able to sign with Jeff Jarrett's company to do the New Japan Wrestling show over in Japan in January. So we'll see what the future brings, but this could be 1,000 things over with really big stories coming out of this.